Well, hello, I'm back. I am back to read on with the What Were the Twin Towers? And I am on chapter 6, and it's called Daredevils. Alright. All famous landmarks attract tourists. Yes, they do. But certain ones also attract thrill seekers. Think of Niagara Falls and the people who risked and sometimes lost their lives plunging over the waterfalls in barrels. I remember reading about that. That'd be cool if they had a book on that one. I should check. Over the years, the Twin Towers drew their share of daredevils. Two incidents are truly amazing. Early on the morning of August 7th, 1974, a tightrope walker from France stepped onto a wire cable that he and some friends had rigged the night before. The men had scouted the two buildings for weeks and figured out how to get up to the roofs without being seen. They used a bow and an arrow to send a small rope from one tower to the other. Then they pulled bigger and heavier ropes across until they were able to string the tightrope. That'd be so scary. I could not do that. This was no ordinary circus act. The wire ran between the World Trade Center's north and south towers. The stuntman's name was Philippe Petit. For 45 minutes, Petit stayed 1,350 feet above the ground. That's more than a quarter of a mile high. And there was no safety net. If he fell, it was all over. Down below, a huge crowd gathered. Petit made 8 trips. One time he stopped and lay down on the wire. Another time he danced on it. He also knelt and saluted people, including the New York City police, who were watching him. Was there an accident? Happily, no. It was the first and also the last time anyone attempted to get from the North Tower to the South Tower this way. Petit's performance ended with his arrest. The charges, however, were dropped when he agreed to give a free performance for children in Central Park. In 2008, a documentary called Man on Wire told the story of Petit's amazing feat at the World Trade Center. Watching it, even though you know there was no accident, you feel as though your heart is in your throat. I should try and find that. See if I can find a video on it. That's neat. Instead of walking between the towers, a Queens, New York man named George Willig decided to climb the outside of the South Tower. Willig was a mountain climber and had spent a year examining the tower and planning his stunt. He began at 6:30 on the morning of May 26, 1977. Willig had designed special clamps that fit onto the tracks made for window washing platforms. When he leaned back, the clamps tightened and held him in place. Then Willig could place the next clamp higher and continue up. 2 policemen on a window washing platform managed to reach him. They tried to talk him out of the climb. One of the policemen was a suicide expert. After deciding that Willig knew what he was doing, the police let him continue. Willig's climb took 3.5 hours. When he finished, he too was arrested, like Philippe Petit. The mayor of New York City fined Willig $1.10. A penny for every floor. So it was $1.10. That's interesting. Weird. Okay, so let's read on to chapter 7. City within a city. The World Trade Center was truly a city within a city. So much mail came to the Trade Center complex that it had its own zip code, 10048. On the average day, as many as 150,000 people visited the towers. Some came to do business with the many companies located there. Others visited merely to marvel at the sheer size of the buildings. In the South Tower, called Two World Trade Center, tourists paid to take a super-fast express elevator to the 107th floor indoor observatory. There was also an outdoor viewing deck on the roof. The view was awesome. The North Tower, or One World Trade Center, had much more expensive tourist attraction. The windows on the World Restaurant was on the 106th and 107th floors. It offered fancy food along with the views. That'd be awesome. Each morning, about 50,000 Trade Center workers poured out of the city subways and New Jersey trains that stopped below the buildings. They grabbed coffee at fast food restaurants in the underground shopping level to take to their desks. On nice days, they enjoyed their snacks or lunch outside in the Austin J. Tobin Plaza. Besides the office workers, thousands of men and women kept the Trade Center humming day after day. There were window washers whose jobs never ended. Once every window was washed in the two towers, the whole process had to start all over again. Cleaning crews kept the building shiny and bright. Engineers, electricians, and plumbers repaired equipment. The Trade Center also had its own police force, with all the powers of New York City police officers. The underground level had exactly what you'd expect to find at any shopping mall: dress shops, shoe stores, card shops, bookstores, and many others. Because most customers were commuters, the stores opened earlier, around 8 a.m., before the workday began. Wonder when the workday began, because nowadays it is 8 a.m. The Trade Center was much quieter at night. The neighborhood didn't become the lively 24/7 area that David Rockefeller had hoped for. Still, the towers were never empty. Besides the overnight cleaning crews, plumbers, electricians, and many security workers, there were people who worked at companies that tracked the stock markets in Hong Kong, Tokyo, and other cities, many time zones and a half a world away. By 6 a.m., when some of the overnight workers were heading home, the first of the daytime workers were streaming out of the subways and trains again. All right. So, let's read on to Chapter 8, the first attack. If you ask anyone, when were the Twin Towers attacked? The answer is almost always September 11th, 2001. But years earlier, on February 26, 1993, I was 9. A small group of plotters tried to destroy the North Tower. Yamazi Yosef was in a rented van packed with 1,200 pounds of explosives that stopped in the parking garage. Yosef and his driver left the van and hurried away. A few minutes later, the van exploded. It blew a hole through 5 underground levels of the building and killed 6 people. The North Tower is badly damaged. The slurry wall at the base of the tower was cracked. The alarm system broke. Besides the damage and awful loss of life, this first attack revealed some serious problems in the Twin Towers. As with most other parking garages at the time, there had been no security officers, so anyone could get in and out. Nor did the stairwells have emergency lighting. On the day of the explosion, thousands of employees had to walk down many flights of stairs in darkness. Yosef was later captured in Pakistan. He was brought to jail in New York City. He admitted belonging to a group called Al-Qaeda, which hated the United States. His plan was to cause so much damage to the North Tower that it would fall into the South Tower and destroy it too. Why? To Yosef and Al-Qaeda, the Trade Center represented the terrible worship of money and greed in the United States, a country they hoped to destroy. In November 1997, Yosef was convicted of murder and conspiracy. He is in prison in Colorado, where he will remain for the rest of his life. memorial pool for the 6 victims of the bombing was built in the plaza in 1995. However, the attack on September 11, 2001, destroyed it. Now the names of the 1993 victims appear with the victims of September 11th, both on the rim of one of the memorial fountains and inside the National September 11th Memorial and Museum. What is a terrorist? A terrorist may act alone, but usually belongs to a group that has declared itself the enemy of a country or government. Terrorists and terrorist groups will attack or use other forms of terror to weaken or destroy their enemies. Al-Qaeda is a terrorist group. It was behind both the first attack on the North Tower in 1993 and the destruction of both towers in September 2001, as well as the plane crash into the Pentagon building and the plane wreck in Pennsylvania. It is believed that the last plane had been heading for either the White House or the Capitol in Washington, D.C. So from 1993 to 2001, they must have been still planning on how to get rid of the Twin Towers. Why did we not see that? That's just crazy. Okay, I will stop there today, and next time I'll read on from chapter 9 and on. So hope you guys have a great rest of your day.